Sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. We have one of those wonderful parables of Jesus in Luke. There's two versions of this story, one in Luke and one in Matthew. The Lucan version has a couple of characteristics that are really interesting and in keeping with the way Luke tells the story. And I want to just kind of do a little examination of this story because there's a lot to it, an awful lot to it. It's a wonderful story. Jesus is talking to some Pharisees. These are the people who really are they're like the ultra-conservative in terms of keeping the law of Moses, making sure everybody does everything just right, because unless everybody's doing everything right, the Messiah won't come. So we've got to, everybody has to do it just the way that we say that you do it. And they've got all these rules and all these kinds of things that are very onerous, and the message of Jesus is very different from that. And so he's talking to the Pharisees, who, by the way, have a vision of the time of when in the afterlife, those who have done all the things that they were supposed to do are welcomed. The primary focus, of course, is the Old Testament vision of Abraham, the root of the people of Israel. And therefore, you get to meet Abraham, and Abraham, like the old spiritual song, "Rock of My Soul in the Bosom of Abraham," is, that's it. That was the ultimate for the Pharisees. And of course, there's all those who don't fit that, and guess where they go? To torment. And that was the way that they had of understanding that, that evil in the world would be punished and only the good would be blessed, and the good are the people we say are good. That's the other part of it. There's always that, isn't there? I mean, there's always that. There's always those people that say, now, we happen to know who the good people are and who aren't. So anyway, here's the story that Jesus tells them, speaking to his audience, the Pharisees, in their understanding. I think that's important. And he tells the story about the rich man and Lazarus. First little interesting piece in this story. The rich man doesn't have a name. He's not given a name. He's just the rich man, dressed in purple, very rich man. And Lazarus, who is outside of his gate every single day and in terrible shape. And the rich man cares nothing about Lazarus. Lazarus to him is nameless. Now, the very wealthy, well, we know that, same today as it was back then, their names are remembered and inscribed on monuments and stadiums and things like that. I'm not putting that down. I'm just simply saying that's what you would expect. In Luke's story, rich man doesn't have a name. It's forgotten. But the poor man, the wretchedly poor and sick man, Lazarus, does have a name. Lazarus. And Lazarus, of course, dies and is welcomed by Abraham, and the rich man dies, and there he is in torment. And so, the rich man, no name, rich man, is there in torment, and he cries out. He can see Lazarus. Oh, there's that guy that was, and he sees Abraham, and he says, Father Abraham, send Lazarus over here to dip his finger in water and just place it on my tongue to give me some relief. And Abraham says, child, you had all your good things in this life, and Lazarus had nothing. And now Lazarus has everything, and you're in torment. And besides all that, there's a big chasm that separates us, that's been placed there and separates us. And we can't get to anyone there, and no one there can get to us. And then he goes on and has a thing, but then send Lazarus to or someone, send them to my brothers. Sends Lazarus to my brothers, and then and so that they can be warned. And he says, well, they've got Moses and the prophets. And then he says, well, yeah, but if somebody is raised from the dead, they'll believe him. And he says, if they don't believe Moses and the prophets, they won't believe even someone who is raised from the dead, which of course is, a foreshadowing of the resurrection of Jesus. So I want to talk about some pieces of this that are very striking, and I've sort of emphasized them as I retell the story. First of all, obviously the rich man he passes by daily Lazarus and basically doesn't even recognize that he's there. He's just a fixture there. Pay no attention, go about your business. So there's that. Lazarus is suffering. Lazarus is in bad shape, Dogs are licking his wounds. It ain't a good sight. This guy's got nothing about that. And then there is death. There is the two places, as the Pharisees would understand it. And so what does no-name rich guy say? Abraham, Father Abraham, send Lazarus to do what he wants done. Even in death, he still doesn't get it. Send Lazarus. Lazarus only exists to do something for somebody, That's his only reason for being. Which gives you a clue to the very next thing, in my opinion, in my meditation, as I have come to understand this, the chasm. Now, as we're hearing this, and we kind of all have a vision, but a chasm has been placed. And of course, we all think, oh yeah, God has placed a chasm there so that those who suffer will suffer, and those who are going to, that's how we go, and we don't pay any attention to anything else. That's the whole thing. And then it leads to Jesus' resurrection. They won't believe that either, okay? It's more interesting than that. The chasm, the hint is the way no-name rich guy understands and thinks about Lazarus. That's the chasm. We can't get through to you. You still don't get it, Abraham says. In a sense, and of course, he doesn't get it. There's a chasm. He doesn't get that he's the cause of the chasm. He's the one making the chasm. He doesn't understand that that's his brother, that person is a beloved of God. Also understand something else. When no-name rich guy makes his plea to Abraham, Abraham's first words out of his mouth are not, You ugly, stupid, terrible person. No, I'm not going to do that. The first word out of his mouth is child. That's a term of endearment. There is compassion that Abraham has for the rich man, the former rich man. He's now like everybody else. The former rich man. His suffering is self-caused. His continuing to be there is self-caused. And Abraham has compassion. It can change. He still sees him as a child of the living God, loved. But he's going to somehow, some way, have to change the way he understands life and the way he understands all life, in especially Lazarus. He's got to see things in a different way in order for that chasm to disappear and him to realize he's right there with everybody else. Very powerful story. And yes, it's true. I will go one step further. This story isn't intended to be so much about what happens after death. It's a parable. It speaks in the language of his audience, but it's delivering an important point about your life right now. And how your life right now can be much richer and can be really blessed. The Pharisees would have seen wealth to be a blessing from God. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wealth. Wealth is there. What one does with it is a matter of stewardship. Stewardship has to do with all the things that come into they're tools. Wealth is a tool. There's lots of tools that we have that can be put to good use. Also enjoyed. Nothing wrong with enjoying that. But also to be shared. With who? With those who don't get to enjoy even the most minute aspect of that. The point of this has to do with relationship, our relationship with the things that we have, and our relationship with others, all people, everyone, and how we manage all of those relationships. Because that's what we're here doing. So, it's set before us. You think that just because people have lots and lots of money and live a lavish lifestyle, that they are blessed and also perfectly content, except it doesn't seem to be the case. Doesn't seem to really be the case. They like to believe that they are content, but they are not. Unless they have managed that wealth and managed their relationships. And then, quite honestly, they are very content. Like in this country, one of the things that was kind of a foundation was that you had opportunity in this country, and should you end up making your way in this world, once you got there, you had a responsibility back to people. That's why you had the Carnegie Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation and all these different foundations and all these different things that took place. The expectation is you give back. You give back. One of the things that I love about Christ Church is that it takes that part seriously. The people here really take that part seriously. It seems like I remembered that we have a kind of a financial continuous goal that 10% of what comes in goes back out. And not only, we're not talking just about money, we're talking about all the ways in which people in this congregation are also giving of their time and their talent. Not just to here, but outside of here. You'll hear about one opportunity coming up during the announcements, but there's lots of opportunities. It's a wonderful thing. And one of the things that we have to do is understand how drastically important it is to our spiritual health in the here and now. This isn't about how to avoid horrible stuff happening to you when you die. It's not about that. It's about how you really learn how to live. How you learn how to live. And so this day, let us hear this lesson and be joyful and be generous to others, and remember that we have a responsibility to think of, pray for, and do whatever bit we can to help those in need, as well as enjoy the fruits of this life. Amen.